G'day and welcome to another video. In today's lesson we will learn how to make the Adeline fingerless mitts or arm warmers. It's an easy crochet pattern with fake cables. So if you've never tried a cable before, this one is a great starter. The free written pattern will be available on Crochet Dreams website. I will put the link in the description box. So please go across to her website and check out all the great free patterns that she has available. In today's lesson we will be using Red Heart Super Saver yarn. I'm using the colour light grey. So let's get started on the lesson. For our supplies we're going to need some worsted weight yarn. You can also use 10 ply. You're going to need 2 stitch markers. You could use these ones or you could use 2 scrap pieces of yarn. We're going to need a sewing needle with a large eye. A pair of scissors. These scissors are available on my website, so I will put a link in below so you can check them out. And we're also going to need a crochet hook to go with your yarn. It normally recommends a 5mm crochet hook, which is a size I, but I'm going to use 4.5 because I have really loose tension. And this, I've actually made one of the gloves already and it's gave me nice firm tension and it actually fits me. I have quite narrow hands, so this has given me nice firm tension and it looks absolutely fabulous. I'm in love with this pattern. And we're also going to need a copy of the pattern. I will put the link in the description box so you can find the written pattern. Print it out and follow along. It is a great pattern for beginners. It only has a couple of rows, so we won't be getting too confused with too many instructions. The written pattern suggests a 5mm or a H size hook, and your gauge is 14 double crochet stitches equals 3.5 inches, and 4 double crochet rows alternating with the slip stitch equals 3.5 inches. And all this information is written on the pattern. And it says switch to a bigger or a smaller hook to obtain your gauge. And this fits an average woman's hand. A finished glove is about 8.5 inches long and 3.5 inches wide. You're going to need about 140 yards of yarn. And we use double crochet, single crochet, half double crochet, slip stitch chain. And it's got fantastic photos as well. So I've just scrolled through the pattern for you. So it's got explanations of back loops for you in case you weren't sure what they are. And it's got awesome pictures as well. And these actually helped me as well. I was unsure in one of the steps, so those pictures were great. So we've got the written pattern. And there are more photos, and these photos were perfect for helping me understand where to do my cable. And there it says, any questions or comments, you can go to mycrochetjeans@gmail.com, and there's also her website, but that link will be below in the description box. So I'll put that aside. So what we need to do is grab our crochet hook and our yarn. We've already got that ready. And what we need to do is make a chain of 32. So making your slip knot. I apologise for whatever that is on my finger. I don't know what that is. I think it might be a bite of some description. Plenty of bugs here around here in summer. So what we need to do is chain 32. Chain 32. So continue on with that one, and then I will catch up with you when we have our 32 chains. Once we have our 32 chains, we want to add 3 for the turning chain. So 1, it's going on 1, 2 and 3. So row 1, it says double crochet into the 4th chain from hook. So yarning over, going into the 4th chain, not counting the one at the beginning. So it's, don't count the one on the hook, so it's 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we've yarned over and we're going into the crochet, into the chain for a double crochet. And then double crochet in each chain across, and that bit that where we skipped here counts as our first stitch. So we're going into each chain and working a double crochet. So continue all the way across and I'll meet you at the other end. Once we get to the end, it's time for row 2. So we turn our work around because we want to work back in the opposite direction. So turn your work so your face is facing that way. What we need to do is chain 1, and that counts as first slip stitch. So don't do it too tight because we do need to work into it when we come back across. 1 slip stitch into the back loop of the next stitch. So in the back loop, we've got the front one, just in case you don't know, is here, and the back one is there. So we're going to slip stitch into the back loop, and we're going to do this all the way across in each back loop. Until we get to the other end. When we get to the end, we want to make sure that we slip stitch into the last stitch. So going into the top of the last stitch, working a slip stitch. And it says we should have 33 slip stitches. On row 3 it says chain 3, so we want to turn our work around because we're working back in the opposite direction. So we want to chain 3. And that counts as our first double crochet. 1 double crochet into the back loop of the next stitch. So when we're looking at our slip stitch, we want to turn it towards us, because this is where I got confused when I very first did the pattern. I thought that this was the front loop and that was the back loop, and that doesn't give you the ridges that you need when you come up to your cable section. So what we need to do is actually turn it towards us, and this part here is the slip stitch. That V there, and there's there and there, that is actually the slip stitch. So this is the back loop here. Okay, so when you're looking at it, it looks like the slip stitches here look exactly the same. So you turn it towards you and that's your back loop. So if you're looking at it like that, this one here looks like the back loop, but it's actually the front loop. So double crochet, so yarning over, turn it towards you and get the back loop and make a double crochet. Turn it towards you, get the back loop and double crochet. And again, back loop. And when you work your slip stitches, don't make them really tight, because as you can see, we need to get into them. So double crochet across all the way, and see how it's leaving this ridge? That's what we make our cables into. So you will need to have 2 loops vacant here. So double crochet into the back loop of the slip stitch all the way across until we get to the other end. And when you come to the end, make sure you get that last stitch. When I made my first one, I'm not lying, when I made my first one I had to rip out 6 rows because somehow I wasn't paying attention for one, but somehow I was losing 1 stitch each row every time I did my double crochet row. And I was on the phone talking to my best friend. That's probably part of the problem. Too busy talking. And yeah, so if you don't get that last stitch, you will lose a stitch, and by the time you've finished, it'll look like some sort of weird triangle. So please remember to do that. And I've just checked mine off camera. So now what we want to do is work our slip stitch row. And it says repeat rows 2 and 3 until you have a total of 16 rows. And you've ended in a slip stitch row, which is row 2. And now your glove should measure 7 inches in width. It says, but do not fasten off. So what we need to do is we need to repeat the last 2 rows. So we just did a double crochet row, and the next one needs to be a slip stitch. So going into the back loop, working a slip stitch. So back loops across, and we've already done this, so I don't really know to show you what to do. So you're going to slip stitch across. When you've done your slip stitch row, you will do a double crochet row, and you're basically just repeating the last 2 rows that we did. Double crochet row is exactly the same, and the slip stitch row is exactly the same. Continue on, you'll have 16 rows in total, and the easiest way to count it is every bit that has the ridge, the slip stitch row, is 2. So that's 2 rows here, and then it'd be 4 when you count the next one. So here's the one already done. So from here, it's 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so that's an easy way to count it. If you need to make these bigger, it doesn't actually say this in the pattern, but if you add an extra couple of rows, you will need to add a double crochet row and a slip stitch row. You can add that onto the pattern. So if once you've made this section, if it's not big enough, add another double crochet and slip stitch row, and that will give you an extra, it will give you a little extra segment, and it'll make your glove wider. And yeah, so that's a different way to make it a little bit wider if you needed it to. If not, you can use a bigger crochet hook, that would also help as well. Okay, so continue on, and I will meet up with you when you have 16 rows, or the amount that you need for your measurement. Once we have our 16 rows, and you may notice yours slightly slants a little bit like this, but what you do is just grab it and then just pull it out, and it will go straight. My other one did exactly the same thing. I think it's when we do the slip stitches across it sort of pulls it just a little bit tight, but if you just pull it out like that, it does straighten up. So you will have 16 rows, or you may have a few more to make if you wanted to make it bigger, but you will end on a slip stitch row. What we need to do is the side that has our ridges on it, we want to fold that because we're going to join it together. So this is the right side, this is the bit that's going to be on the outside of the glove. We want to stitch it, join it together with the right sides facing each other. What it says is fold it in with the right side inside and start slip stitching the long sides together to make a tube as shown in picture 2. While making the joining slip stitches, you will insert your hook through the free loop left on the foundation chain side and the back loop on the slip stitch on the other side shown in picture 3. So what we need to do is pick up our so we're going to go through the first stitch. On the first stitch, go through both loops. This will give you a nice firm join. And then through both loops on the back one. And that will just make it nice, and it won't make it real gappy on the join. So now on the next one, going through the free loop here, and on this part we want to go into the back loop on this section. This is quite easy to do off camera, but I'm just trying to show you so you can see that. So slip stitch. So the front loop and over on this one we're going to the back loop. Slip stitch. And then the vacant loop here, and the back loop on the other side. And you want to continue on, and it says slip stitch until you have 2.5 inches left open. So you want to continue on until you're about 2.5 inches from the end, so about that much, and that's going to be our thumb hole, and then we can continue on and then we join up a little bit on the end. So I'm going to go across until I'm about to here. So once we have it about 2.5 inches from the end, and hands up who slip stitched all the way across. Yep, that would be me. I did it on the other one too. Not paying attention. So put your glove on. And then what I did for my first one, I just pretty much just grabbed hold of it to where I wanted it to be stitched to. And then grabbed a stitch marker, so it's about there. And then I took it off. It was just easier like that. That's not in the pattern, but that's just what I did to make it easier for me to remember where to rejoin. So what it says to do now is, what we need to do is work our yarn up the side. And to do that, we're going to slip stitch, where is it? Slip stitch along the foundation chain. So where your foundation chain is, where is that? Okay, it's here because that's where a tail is. So mine's on this side. Jeez. So we're going to slip stitch along here. Until we get to our stitch marker. Okay, so that's my stitch marker. And then join it together. Make sure that one's tight so that it doesn't look loose on the join. And then continue on joining like we did on the first section. And continue on all the way to the end. When we get to the end, don't fasten off because it says continue to work a round of single crochet on the opening of the gloves to even out the irregular edges. Work the single crochet stitches along the inside of the tube, as that will be the right side of the glove. So normally we would work on the outside, but because we want it to show, we're going to work on the inside. So we're going to have the outside facing us and then the inside will be here, and we're working over there. So chain one for your single crochet and work around. Don't make them too tight, otherwise it will make the opening of your glove smaller. And what I did is I went into the little loop there and then I went into the space. This is what I did on my other one. Went into the little loop there. And just worked my way around, working a single crochet. And try and go under 2 loops if you can. It won't have a big hole. If you go under 1 loop it may. Continue around until you're up to the other side. When we get around to the other side, we're going to slip stitch into the first single crocheted join. We can cut off our yarn. And put it the right way. What we're going to do is sew in our ends. So just putting your needle under the lips. Cutting off the yarn. And now it's time to start the, I have another end, I'll do that later. Time to start the cable section. And this part is awesome, it really is. So we've got great photos there for you to look at on the pattern. So it says try the glove on the left hand, putting your thumb through the hole and place markers to show 2 tracks. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. And it says to show 2 tracks running through the middle of your hand as shown in picture 6. And you're going to repeat it with your right glove. Now you know where to work your fake cables for each side. So what you need to do is put your glove on. Put your glove on, grab your 2 stitch markers. And the 2 cables, so that's your thumb, the 2 cables that run down here, they're the ones that we need. So mark that one. You could also use scrap pieces of yarn. And then the other one, so miss this one, do the next one. Oh, this is really hard to do it one-handed. This would be easier if it wasn't one of the clip ones. There we go. So you're going to mark those 2 cables. So that's my join where my thumb is, and then you need these 2 cables. We're going to be using that one, but if you mark these 2 out it makes it easier. And do that with your other glove. So try the other one on now, because if you don't, you may accidentally make 2 the same and they will only go on the one hand. Otherwise your cable will be underneath. Okay? So try both on now. If you haven't made the other one yet, make sure you remember it when you make the second one. So, my ring is getting stuck in there. There you go. So with our stitch markers, what we do now is grab, where's my crochet hook? There it is. It says, now you'll work your way down and make, no, forget that bit. It says, keep the gloves down with the markers shown on top. So we've got our markers there. Slip stitch to the base of the ridge on the right as shown by the red dot and follow the blue line as shown in Pix 8 above. So you can see that on your pattern. So we're joining our yarn here. Going to join it into the first slip stitch. Now this one was tricky on the other one, so it's just that one that's tricky because we've crocheted near it. So join the yarn in there, so grab your yarn. Now this looks a lot harder than it actually is. This bit's actually really easy. So join in your yarn. That says chain 3, slip stitch to the 5th stitch on the middle ridge to the left. So this is our middle ridge. So count up 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to work a slip stitch. Chain 4. Slip stitch to the 9th stitch, counted from the previous slip stitch made on the same ridge. On the right side. So on the right side is this one here. So basically, oops, sorry, this cable and that cable, we're working between those two for this first section. So we don't need this one yet, we're only working these two. So to the 9th stitch, so not counting on we slip stitch into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So slip stitch into that one. This is actually easier off camera because you can maneuver it a lot better. And it says chain 4. So we count up 9 stitches on this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And slip stitch, chain 4. Count up 9 stitches on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Work a slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count up 9 on this one. This is the middle one. 1, 2, 3. We want to continue this all the way to the top. Then when we get to the top part, we do the same thing, so it's chain 4, count up 9 stitches, 1, 2, 3, oops, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch in that top stitch. So that's the first part of our cable done. How easy is it, isn't it? So easy. It looks so effective. So now what we want to do is we want to mirror image what we did on this side. So chain 4, and over here we want to count down, and it's basically we're going to slip stitch opposite this one. So make sure that's opposite. So I didn't really even count this one on my other one, I just looked at it and went opposite, so it's chain 4. And now we want to slip stitch where this one is in the middle. So I just went underneath here and work a slip stitch, and like I said, this is easy to do off camera. It's just I'm sitting in a really odd position. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come down, go over to the left hand one, slip stitch in the same position as that one, give it a quick check to make sure it is. Chain 4, slip stitch under there. Make sure this one's tight one, don't make that one loose. Chain 4, and repeat this all the way down until we get back to the bottom. So our last one will be slip stitch up there, and once we have that done, chain 1, and we're going to work a round of single crochet evenly around here. I'm going to work 2 into there, two in there, continue around until we get back to the beginning, and then we're going to slip stitch to join. Once you've slip stitched to join, we're going to sew in any ends that we have. So I've got that one somewhere else, there it is, got that one as well. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please share your creations on our Facebook pages. I will put the link for Crochet Dreams Facebook page as well. It is great to keep up to date with her free patterns that are coming out. Please subscribe, there will be plenty more videos to come. Check out my website, all the links that are needed for this free written pattern are in the description box below the video. I hope you are having a great week. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy crochet.